What's up, my fellow light lover? In today's episode, we'll look at how I lit each scene of a 60-second tech commercial. Let's check out the commercial real quick so you can see what we're going to be talking about.
This is Murphy's Law, a small SMB customer that relies on outsourced IT support to keep the business running. And this is Rich, an MSP owner that knows what can go wrong, usually does, especially at Murphy's Law.
Call Rich!
I still don't know what phishing is, but maybe call Rich?
I'll get my best guys on it.
Thanks to Rich and his team, Murphy's Law is back to smooth sailing. For now.
First things first, I want to shout out the crew that helped make this commercial possible. I absolutely love working with this team, but I know why you're here, so let's hop on into the breakdown. The intro shot was a wide of the whole office space, which didn't give me any place to hide lights in frame. So I decided to apply the old adage, sometimes the best way to make it look like a grocery store is to leave it lit like a grocery store, and use the installed overhead lighting and available practicals to fill out the frame. To accent the office lighting and give some shape to the talent in the foreground, an 8x8 magic cloth was placed just out of frame on camera left, with a 600D pushing through that. A double net was folded in half and clipped to the bottom half of the 8x8 magic cloth. I did this to reduce the intensity of the back of the couch in the foreground. Without the double net, the back of the couch would have looked sourcey and given away where the key light was located. The Aperture 600D was pushed through a CTO gel. This brought the color temperature of it closer to the office lighting. Rather than clip the gel directly to the Fresnel, I clipped it to a horizontal C-stand arm with some space between the lens of the Fresnel and the gel. The distance helps reduce the heat impact on the gel from the light, and having air on both sides, rather than having it tight against the Fresnel lens, also helps to cool the gel off and keep it from melting. In the back of the room, a Kelvin EPOS 300 was pushed through an 8x8 half grid to help highlight the background talent. I chose half grid because it's about a stop brighter than magic cloth. And with the wattage of the EPOS 300 being half that of the Aperture 600, a one-stop difference in diffusion brings them to be about equal in terms of measured output. And because it's in the back of the room, the reduction in softness won't be noticeable to the viewer. The intensities of each light were adjusted until they felt proper for the space, and that's about that. Pretty simple setup for the first shot of this commercial. This setup also happened to be the same look as the last shot, so we filmed that too since we were already lit for it. The closing shot just required us to reposition the camera for a different dolly movement. All right, let's move on to the hero shot of our IT guy. This was a cramped room that required some special considerations to get a soft, ambient feeling light quality. Let's start with the key light. In order to maximize the softness of this light, I decided to make it a book light. And to do that, I bounced the Aperture 600D off the white office wall and back through an 8x8 magic cloth, which created a soft source with a reduced fall-off intensity. A double net was folded in half and taped against the wall in front of the 8x. This helped to cut down the intensity of the wall, which hides the source of the light to the camera. To help control the ratio between the light and shadow sides of our talent, I added another book light on the fill side, bouncing a Kelvin EPOS 300 off the wall and back through a checkerboard muslin gave us the soft, directionless fill that we were going for. Side note, I'm a big fan of this checkerboard muslin from the Grip House. It has a warming effect on a daylight balanced light that I prefer on lighter skin tones, going from about 5600 Kelvin to about 5000 Kelvin. Checkerboard muslin also more accurately simulates light bouncing in from the exterior environment than a regular rag. Light doesn't just come straight into an office building from the sun, it's also bouncing around the environment and off things like buildings, the concrete, trees, coming in from clouds, etc. A checkerboard muslin helps recreate this effect by piecing together several types of muslin into one cloth. For the last film light in this scene, I boomed in an Aperture Infinibar PB12 behind the talent. This gave some separation between him and the background. In order to provide motivation for the Infinibar rim light, I placed some tungsten practicals in frame. These were controlled by 300-watt dimmers to achieve the preferred intensity level. I always keep a set of incandescent practicals handy for things like this. Without diving too much into it, the color output of them is richer because of the full spectral output of a tungsten unit compared to an LED. And that does it for this scene. Pretty much your standard 3-point lighting setup with a few tweaks. Let's move on to the quick cut shots. These clips were all about careful positioning of our key light to avoid being seen in the camera whip. The setup time for these 3 scenes was also fairly minimal, so the lighting is going to reflect that. For the first shot, we filmed this one right after our large office scene. So I repoed the 600D, the 8x magic cloth, and the double net. These were all placed as a far side key, or across our talent's eye line from the camera. I placed the setup at a pretty typical 3/4 angle to give some shape to the face without being too dramatic with it. Positioning camera left also gave the DP room to whip pan camera right. And since we were looking up at our talent, there wouldn't be any room to hide lighting behind him in frame, so I went with available lighting again to fill out the rest of the frame. And lastly, the green tape that you can see here on the monitor is for the VFX work that needed to be done in post. The tape gives the graphic artist a triangulated plane so they can add in the monitor replacement, which you can see in these frames here. For the second shot, the DP wanted the eye line of this one to be opposite the last one, so we weren't looking the same way for all 3 of these shots. So the 600D and checkerboard muslin were positioned on the far side of our talent to act as a key light. But this placement also meant that the camera whip would have looked directly at the key. So in order to solve this issue, the camera was positioned outside the room behind a little window. An Aperture 60X helped keep the outside wall from being too dark. And back inside the room, an Infinibar position behind the talent gives her some separation from the background. A Kelvin EPOS 300 bounced into a 2x4 beadboard gives us the fill that we're looking for, and the beadboard was put into place using a quacker clamp, platypus, duckbill, oinky boink, whatever they're called from where you are. Let me know down in the comments if you'd like me to drop a video on how to make your own beadboard. On to the last of our quick setups. The key light here was again a 600D with the same CTO gel setup as before, going through the 8x8 magic cloth on the far side of our talent. This time I didn't even need the double net to slow down the desk, since the cut is going to happen before the desk is seen. An Infinibar serves as a hair light, adding separation to the talent yet again. And that same beadboard from before is still controlling the amount of shadow side fill. Only this time it's affecting the ratio by bouncing the key light back to our talent rather than redirecting a secondary light source. And that does it for the quick cuts. Big soft key positioned far side, some separation between the talent and background when possible, and some good old-fashioned quality acting. The last shot of the day was definitely my favorite scene to light. In order to create a black void room, we had to film in a room with enough space to avoid spill from the lighting hitting the walls. While this shot could have been done in a smaller room, it would have been significantly harder to set up and control all of the lighting. Second, all of the available light sources had to be blacked out. As you can see here, this room was flooded with light. Several floppies outside the room and some duvetine under the skylights helped bring it all under control. To start lighting this one, an Intelitech Mega 8 was boomed in over our talent and slightly in front of him. This was controlled with a grid to reduce the spill on the back wall. I placed the light slightly in front of the subject to eliminate the raccoon eye effect that can happen when overhead sources are placed too directly overhead. 2 tube lights were placed behind the talent on both sides of him to provide the blue rim lighting. A black piece of gaffer's tape was placed along the back side of each tube to act as a flag and block the light from casting onto the back wall. A point source was popped behind our talent on the floor using a pigeon plate. Lastly, an MC Pro taped to a monitor simulated the light coming from said computer monitor. And there you have it, a fun little tech commercial for an IT company. This was my first attempt at breaking down how I lit a commercial, so if you'd like to see more of these episodes, then let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.